The other housekeeping item is just you're not automatically muted when you come in, so it would be great just to kind of reduce noise in the background and distractions if you make sure that you're muted. You can certainly come off mute at the end when we're doing the question and answer period, but for now, if you could make sure that you're muted, which it looks like everybody is, so I appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kaylee.
Okay, thank you so much, Melinda. Welcome, everybody. We are really appreciative of you guys carving some time out of your day to attend this workshop on the Climate Smart Land Management Program, Capacity Building and Technical Assistance portion of that program. You know, this program was really born from this realization that, I don't know, realization, but the unspoken reality that, you know, all of our different programs at the Natural Resources Agency and partner agencies that are trying to accomplish climate smart land management really rely on a small group of undercapitalized and, you know, superstar organizations that, you know, really need our help to build capacity and to build technical assistance so that they can you know, help us achieve these really monumental goals that we need to achieve in land management to build, you know, to bring climate resilience to our communities, to the state, and to build climate mitigation as well. We see it a lot in our programs, and we frankly, you know, as a program, I mean, we run many different grant programs, and as programs, we're always just kind of at the brim of our own capacity to keep pushing forward. And we hear from our partners all the time that, you know, many frankly feel kind of underwater with so much funding and so many different grant programs. And, you know, what's really great about this program is that it was this acknowledgement that instead of kind of siloing out and splitting out funding for capacity or project development or planning, you know, across many different confusing programs, it makes a whole lot more sense to consolidate that into one central program. Given that, you know, the same organizations are serving, you know, multiple state agencies and multiple state goals at one time. We're really proud to be able to host that program in our department. We have a long history of supporting capacity going back to our, you know, our watershed coordinator programs, but also to, you know, all of our programs, we try to build in capacity elements into those so that we can, you know, so we don't just give money out to those who walk through the door with high capacity and leave those without it out. You know, we really believe in developing programs that achieve equitable results because everyone faces both the needs and the impacts of climate change. So thank you again for coming in today. All questions are good questions. All suggestions are good suggestions. We're going to do our best to take them all down. Please come back to us with notes if you have them. From there, I'm just going to introduce our team that's leading this. You met Melinda already. She's helping us with kind of the outreach and with the program. Also wanted to introduce Jenny DeStefano, who will be leading this program and leading the presentation. And then in the audience as well as Gail Chun, who goes back with our division all the way back to the Watershed Coordinator program. So who you have leading this program are really the people who have built capacity kind of programs in the state and who have been working on them for the last, I don't want to say how many years because I might, you know, might no, I don't always want to know how long we're working on stuff, but so just know you're in good hands, and I'll hand it off to them from here. But just thanks a bunch, and look forward to your participation.
Awesome, thanks, Kaylee. So now I'm going to do a quick overview of the agenda. And as you know, we've allowed an hour for the workshop, and the presentation was pretty quick, so it leaves plenty of time for questions and comments and conversation at the end. If you would hold those questions to the end of the presentation, that would be great. And feel free to pop questions or thoughts or whatever into the chat as well, and we can get to those at the end. So we may refer to the draft guidelines. Jenny, do you have a second to pop those into the chat? So since we'll be referring to the draft guidelines, hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at them. Jenny's going to pop the link to those into the chat. So if you could have it just handy, it's good to have as she's going through the presentation. So We'll be talking, she'll be providing an overview of the program and the guidelines, discussing funding availability, eligible entities and activities, the application process and timelines. And then, like I said, we'll open it up for public comments and then just sort of discuss next steps. So I think that covers it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jenny.
Good morning, everybody. So this program, let me give you a little bit of background first. In October of 2020, Governor Newsom outlined an agenda to expand nature-based solutions across California through Executive Order N82-20. It called for restoring nature and landscape health to deliver on climate change goals and other critical priorities. The Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy helps implement the governor's executive order and expand climate action on natural and working lands. The Climate Smart Land Management Program has an overarching goal to build capacity of state partners throughout California to support implementation of priority nature-based solutions called for in the Natural and Working Lands Climate Smart Strategy and other similar strategies and programs. The scope of this program is intentionally broad and flexible. And the reason for this is we want to welcome an expansive range of partners and ideas as to how best to support growing networks of land manager stewards of California's rich landscapes. So funding was allocated through the Budget Act of 2022, and you can see there it's through AB 79, Chapter 249, Stat 2022. This round of funding includes $8.5 million to fund block grants ranging from $500,000 to $2 million. And the block grants will help develop the capacity of both a successful applicant and other entities within their communities. So block grantees will be able to award subgrants and subcontracts to complete their proposed activities. So there's also going to be $500,000 available for grants led by tribes. And additionally, a regional partnership grant to support integrated opportunities for nature-based solutions and implementations will be funded later on through a different solicitation process. So who is eligible? There's quite a number of people eligible for this program. We have resource conservation districts, UC Cooperative Extension Service, state conservancies, land trust, regional parks districts, local governments, community-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, and tribal governments or tribal nonprofit organizations. So the goals and activities that we're funding here include capacity building and sustaining capacity. Really, the primary goal of this program is to build capacity. We want to build and sustain organizational capacity to strengthen technical ability and capacity to implement climate smart land management on natural and working lands, and expand and increase the diversity of statewide partners to increase the climate smart strategy goals, including implementation of priority-based nature-based solutions and cross-cutting priorities. There's some examples of activities that we're talking about here listed on page 4 of the guidelines. Technical assistance is another goal and activity of this program. We're hoping to strengthen capacity and increase technical ability of all land managers. Types of activities funded in this category may include activities that provide targeted support to an organization, community, or practitioner with a development need or resource gap. We also want to increase the ability of tribes to lead natural and working lands program that support tribal objectives and help achieve natural and working lands climate smart goals. We're also providing funding to conduct strategic planning, and of course, to develop projects, including conducting permitting activities for already planned projects. One of the main goals of this program is to develop a pipeline of climate smart land management projects to meet local, state, federal, and tribal goals. And there will be some funding provided for demonstration projects, and these would be projects that show something new, something innovative, something that hasn't done before. And again, the goal of this funding is to provide flexible and efficient support to block grantees so they can lead expeditious and adaptive programs. Okay, application process. So the draft application materials are included in the draft guidelines, and they'll be finalized when the guidelines are released. Applicants will be required to complete some standard grant application forms. You've probably seen similar forms before, including a cover sheet, work plan, and budget. And the application is also going to include things like narrative questions that you have to answer to give us a better idea of how your proposed activities will help meet the program goals. And a few other things that will be required. And these are things that you can start thinking about working on sooner rather than later, because sometimes these things will take time, like getting a resolution of support from your governing body and getting support letters from participating organizations. So application deadline we're looking at right now is May 8th, and we're going to allow it a little bit longer for tribes to apply. Their applications, tribal applications will be due April 8th. And we plan to release the final guidelines and application between March 17th and March 31st. And then our goal is to announce awards in July and have funding available early next fiscal year. So this is the time for you to tell us what you think about the program, if you've read the guidelines, any questions you might have. We really do want to hear from you. And even if you don't say it today, you can send any comments that you have by email to me, and I am putting my email in the chat right now. So who has a question first?
Feel free to raise your hand or no, as Kaylee E said at the very onset, no question is, every question is a great question. Every comment is welcome. We'd just love to hear from you and get a sense. This is a new program. And in some ways, it's very open-ended. So sometimes which is great, but also maybe allows time for some questions. Dylan, go for it.
Hi, good morning. I got two questions. And I guess I'm calling from the Land Conservancy of San Luis Obispo County, and I work in the stewardship department. And I guess, could you give me some examples of capacity building that you had mentioned? That's my first question.
That is an excellent question. Capacity building can be hiring people to support an organization. It can be sometimes buying equipment, anything that you need to grow your organization, providing training, helping people get certifications. There's really a wide variety of activities that could be considered capacity building.
Okay, great, thanks. And then my second question is, would like, rangeland improvement infrastructure, would that be something that could be potentially funded through this grant?
I think when we get into equipment and infrastructure, it gets a little, I'll say unclear, but we don't have hard lines. So the way that I think about it and the way that I'll think about it when I'm one of many looking at these applications is, will this investment help you, expand your ability across many landscapes to accomplish goals? If it's one section of fencing on one piece of property, to me, that's more of a project expense. But if it were machinery to be able to install, paddock fencing across many different and move those, right? Like that would be more of a capacity investment.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the questions. Can a land trust be a lead applicant? Courtney is asking.
Yes.
Yeah. The idea is that a lead applicant can manage multiple sub-grants and manage multiple partners. So, there's a question of whether you're it's more about if you're like you have the fiscal administrative capacity to perform that role. They're not limited to any one kind of organization.
Great, thanks Kelly for clarifying. Janet, or Cara, I'm sorry.
Hi, everyone. It's Kara from AFT. Nice to see everyone, old friends. I know this is very broad, like you said, which is a double-edged sword, right? So figuring out what to do, but love the ability to be creative. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but does the department have a preference on like the geographical scale of these applications? Like, is there a preference for more regionally scaled projects or county scale or anything along those lines?
I mean,
No.
well, I think, we intentionally didn't define a region, and we've done this with other programs, and we envision two types of grants coming in. One would be a statewide grant serving multiple regions. Another would be a regional grant focused on a specific region. If it's a specific region, I think we want to see that there's, enough of a big enough landscape impact to be defensible as a regional grant. And that, you just have to ask that question of yourself. If it's one creek with 4 projects in a half-mile area, to me, that's not regional, even though it's like 4 probably important projects. But if it's a whole watershed with multiple creeks and multiple watershed and multiple partners, then that starts to become more of a bigger grant. And then we also have a clause in our guidelines that allows us to negotiate with grantees because we expect that some of these grants might be overlapping. The statewide grant may have a statewide approach to pollinator habitat, and then there may be some region that wants to do a big pollinator habitat program. We would want to work with those applicants if we were selecting them both to tailor them so they weren't overlapping. But I don't know, Jenny or Melinda, do you guys have any comments on like the regional question and the size from your experience?
Yeah, and this came up with our last one too. And I think, one of the things that we discussed during that workshop was the idea of the block grantee, like you're saying, sort of someone that's more overarching in terms of geographical space, and then some of the smaller ones may be more specific to very smaller areas. But I mean, I think, Jenny, what are your thoughts?
I'd say a watershed is good. A county is fine. We just don't want something so small that it's only serving, like Kaylee said, a small region. If it's just one project in someone's backyard, then obviously no, but we're looking for something larger that serves what you define as a region. We kind of want to hear from you what you think it should be.
And
but I think
I'm not
go
hearing,
ahead, Kara.
sorry, I'm not hearing that anything would necessarily be too big. I mean, I think we're thinking San Joaquin Valley or maybe statewide. So it sounds like that could fit.
Yeah, and it depends on the scale of what you're doing too, right? I mean, you know, it's both the size, it's both the breadth and the depth and sort of the type of project that you're referring to. So, but, and also I think too, we should just remind everyone we're here, you know, that we're very available for technical assistance. So, you know, if you want to run these ideas, you know, by the team, more than happy to do that.
Thanks, you
No,
guys.
And yeah, and I'll also just add to just to help you think through these projects. So we're kind of reverse engineering. You know, we have these all of these different programs that the legislature and the administration have passed to accomplish climate smart land management, land conservation goals, all these big goals that were encompassed within the executive order. And we're kind of reverse engineering, like what are their what are they charged to accomplish and how can we help them? So as you're thinking about your project, think about how it connects through all the way to like that accomplishment of those major goals. And that's right. In the guidelines, we point to the plan quite a bit, but think about, you know, other local plans as well. And draw that through line from your proposed investment to that outcome. It doesn't have to get you all the way there, but to show how it kind of connects.
Did that help, Kara?
Yes, very much. Thanks again.
Super. Thanks for the question. Becky. Oh, I saw a hand there. Oh, there you are.
Sorry, it was just coming off on mute. Hi, I'm Becky from Parks, California, and really excited about this opportunity. Thanks for prioritizing capacity building, especially in this space. I have a question about one of the measures, the durability of the investment, and thinking about the benefits. And I'm thinking about some of the capacity building activities that might be included in a program for this. You know, that might be strategic planning. As we're thinking about how to define and describe the benefits, are you looking for the actual climate action benefits or the benefits to the landscapes, or are like how are you thinking about, or how should we be thinking about that term benefits in this context?
Good question. Thanks.
Maybe I'll go and then Jen. I'm thinking it has to tie back to actual tangible benefits on the ground to some level. So if you're doing strategic planning, and that strategic planning is around what are our priorities and what kind of actions do we need to take to accomplish those priorities to then accomplish these larger local and statewide goals, that kind of planning fits. If it were strategic planning around, like, I don't know, fundraising, while fundraising is really important for an organization to be able to then lead big efforts, like that isn't really, that does, to me, that feels a little further outside of the kind of the project through line that we're looking for. But in the past, our capacity programs have funded fundraising stuff, so it gets a little tricky. But
Okay, I'm thinking
Jenny,
like if
oh,
for an example with like workforce planning, for example, if you were to help support partners in strategic planning for their workforce planning, some of the benefits may be, you know, a larger, more skilled workforce to address wildfire resilience. But you wouldn't actually have that implemented on the ground necessarily within the program period. So I don't know, I'm thinking about that example, like, is there a way to share out benefits or durability investment for that type of work?
Well, I mean, our state, thinking about wildfire programs, you know, Forest Health Program, for example, has a workforce component to try to, you know, to support like locally driven, equitable restoration economies kind of thing. Like, what are the workforce impacts of all those forest health investments? If our program can help a region kind of develop a more equitable local restoration economy to then service CAL FIRE's forest health goals, then we're accomplishing a central goal in both in the climate smart land management strategy, but also the implementation programs everything else we're trying to do. So yeah, I would see that tying to it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for the question. Any additional thoughts, Jenny, or is that?
I think you covered it. I was just going to say, workforce development there's an obvious connection to work will get done if there's more people to do it. So I think having an obvious connection to the end product of resource improvement is what you should be looking to do.
But I could go on this one for a while. But then I think you could look at workforce development and it could be further outside. So if like somebody wanted to develop a curriculum for, workforce training, that would be applied to many regions on forest health across the state, it starts to be detached a little more than a local workforce development program that's tied to the implementation of projects in that area. I think you have to think back to that. How does that tie to the impact where they're connected, but just gets further out and maybe lesser of a priority for this program specifically.
Something more where there's more direct connection between them. And Becky, again, this would be a good one to kind of reach out to us and just kind of run some ideas by.
Great, thanks.
Sure. Thanks for the question. Any other questions? All questions are good questions.
Comments too. If you've
Yes.
had a chance to read the guidelines and find things that you really like or dislike, we want to hear about it.
Okay, well, we'll have more time for questions. I'll just go to the next slide so we can, required match. Quick question. Jenny,
No.
is there no match? No match. Yay, no match. So let's just go to next steps real quick, and we're still, we can still take questions too. Go for it, Jenny.
Sure. So the important things coming up that you need to be aware of, the comment period for this program ends on March 10th. So send us your comments by 11:59 on March 10th, and we will make sure we read them and take them into consideration as we're finalizing the guidelines. If you do email me, I will respond and let you know that I received your comment. If you don't hear back from me, feel free to resend to make sure that I get them. And then our goal for publishing the guidelines is between March 17th and March 31st and releasing those. And those are going to be available on our website, which you see here. The draft comments are there, or the draft guidelines are there now. That'll just be replaced by the final guidelines somewhere towards the end of March. And then
we'll send an email out
to
let people know when that's happened. So hopefully you're all on our list. I'm just seeing there's a couple names that I didn't see on the list originally, so just make sure you're on our email list. Sorry to interrupt, Jenny.
No problem. Final thing to be aware of is applications will be due May 8th. So
and
that's
aiming to have
our
awards by sometime in July, perhaps.
Sometime in July, and then getting into contract later in summer or early fall.
And then, I'm sorry, did you mention it's 3-year grant terms, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great. So again, feel free to just raise your hand or pop off the chat and ask a question. Mike, Scott, any questions, thoughts? Well, we're happy to hang out here for a while. If you need to pop off and go out and play in the snow, please feel free to do so. Thanks, Janet. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to everyone for joining us and taking time to learn more about the program. Very happy to do some technical assistance if you want to reach out, learn more, just kind of run some ideas by us before you dive deep into it. We're really happy to do that.
Thank you so much. This was really helpful.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you joining us. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. I should have done that before.